My name is Sarah, I'm 27 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the stranger in my own family. Growing up, I never understood why my parents treated me the way they did. It wasn't just favoritism, it was something heavier, something cruel. My younger sister Emily was the golden child. Everything she did was perfect in their eyes, every little achievement celebrated with balloons, cakes, and endless praise. And me, I was the mistake, the burden, the one they tolerated because they had to. I remember my 12th birthday like it happened yesterday. I had begged my mom for a small party, nothing big, just a cake and maybe a couple of friends over. She looked me in the eye and said, "Sarah, you don't need all that. You should be grateful we even buy you gifts." The next month, Emily turned 10, and they rented out an entire hall. There was a magician, a giant cake with 3 layers, and even a photo booth. I sat in the corner, clapping and smiling, but inside I felt like someone was tightening a rope around my chest. At family dinners, my dad always directed every question to Emily. "How was school today? What grade did you get? Wow, amazing job." When it came to me, the most I'd hear was, "Pass the salt, Sarah." I kept telling myself maybe I was imagining it. Maybe I wasn't trying hard enough to make them proud. So I studied harder, I played sports, I even learned piano, hoping, praying that one day they would look at me the way they looked at her. But the truth, it never happened. The last straw came at Emily's college graduation. I had come straight from work, dressed as nicely as I could, with flowers I had saved up for. When I handed them to her after the ceremony, my mom smirked and whispered, "Try not to make this about you, Sarah. This is Emily's day, not yours." And then in front of relatives, my dad laughed and said, "We got one perfect daughter and well, Sarah tries." Everyone laughed. I did too, but only because if I didn't, I knew I'd cry right there. That night, I went home, shut the door, and sat in complete silence. I thought about every single moment that led up to this point, every humiliation, every cold shoulder. And then I asked myself the question I had buried for years. Why do they hate me so much? I was their daughter, their flesh and blood, or at least I thought I was. Because 1 week later, I stumbled across something that shattered everything I thought I knew about myself a week after Emily's graduation. I was cleaning out my grandmother's old room. She had passed away a year ago, and no one had touched her things since. My mom finally told me to make myself useful and sort the boxes. I sat on the floor, surrounded by dusty photo albums and yellowed envelopes, when I found a small wooden box tucked in the back of the closet. It had a tiny brass lock, but the wood was so old it practically crumbled in my hands. I pried it open with a hairpin. Inside were letters, dozens of them. The one on top had my name written across it. Not Sarah in my mom's sharp handwriting, not my dad's scrawl. This was different, delicate, careful, and filled with love. My hands trembled as I unfolded it. "To our sweet Sarah, if you're reading this, then you're old enough to know the truth. Please understand that everything we did was out of love. We never wanted to leave you. We never wanted this life for you." I froze, my chest tightened. "What truth? Leave me," I read further. "You weren't abandoned. You were taken in by people we trusted. We believed they would give you a good life, but it seems they decided never to tell you who you really are. We're so sorry, sweetheart. We wanted you to grow up knowing how loved you were." My vision blurred. My fingers went numb. I dropped the letter, digging deeper into the box. More papers, official documents, birth certificates, adoption records. And right there in black and white was the confirmation. I wasn't their biological daughter. My whole world cracked in half. I rushed downstairs, clutching the papers in my hands. My parents were in the kitchen, sipping coffee like it was any other day. My mom looked up, annoyed. "Why are you stomping around like that?" I slammed the letter on the table. My voice shook. "What is this? Who wrote this? Tell me right now." For a moment, their faces went pale. They exchanged a look, one I had never seen before, fear. My dad was the first to speak. "Where did you get that?" "Grandma's box," I whispered. "Tell me it's not true." My mom exhaled sharply, shaking her head. "You shouldn't have seen that. You weren't supposed to know." I felt like I couldn't breathe. "So it's true. I'm adopted, and you never told me." "Why?" Her voice was cold, almost irritated. "Because it didn't matter. We took you in, we gave you a home." "Isn't that enough?" My dad added. "We did our duty. That's all anyone could expect." "Duty?" That word broke me. They didn't say love. They didn't say family. They said duty. Tears burned my eyes. I thought you hated me because I wasn't good enough. But this is worse. You never even saw me as yours." Emily walked in just then, holding her phone, looking confused. "What's going on?" My mom shot her a look. "Nothing, go back upstairs." But I wasn't about to stop, not now. "How long have you known?" I demanded. My dad slammed his hand on the table. Enough, Sarah. Some things are better left alone. You should be grateful we raised you at all. Most people wouldn't have bothered. The room went silent. My hands shook so badly I thought I'd drop everything. And in that silence, one truth settled into my bones. I was never their daughter, not really. And maybe I never would be. But what cut the deepest wasn't just the adoption. It was the look on their faces when I asked if they ever loved me. And they said nothing. I couldn't sleep that night. The letter, the adoption papers, my parents' cold expressions, they all replayed in my head like a broken record. Every laugh, every dismissal, every time they pushed me aside suddenly made sense. I wasn't theirs, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing, something bigger. So the next morning I cornered Emily in the hallway. "Did you know?" I asked, my voice barely steady. She froze, her eyes darted away, her hands tightening around her phone. "Know what?" I shoved the letter at her. "Don't play dumb. Did you know I was adopted?" Her silence was the answer. My knees went weak. "How long?" Emily's voice was quiet, almost guilty. "Since I was 12, Mom and Dad told me. They said I was old enough to understand and that I needed to protect you from the truth." The world tilted. "Protect me by lying to me, by treating me like garbage." Emily's expression hardened as if she had been waiting years to say it. "You were never really one of us, Sarah. Mom and Dad always said you were different. A responsibility they didn't ask for." Her words cut deeper than any insult. "You knew this whole time," I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. "And you just let me believe I wasn't good enough. You laughed when they mocked me. You never said anything." Emily shrugged, though her voice cracked. "It wasn't my secret to tell. Besides, I didn't want to lose what I had. I was their real daughter. I didn't want to risk being treated like you." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. All those years of loneliness, of begging silently for love, and the one person I thought might understand, my sister, had been part of the silence. I stumbled back, clutching the papers. My voice broke. "You all made me feel like a stranger in my own home. And you knew, Emily, you could have told me. You could have been my sister, at least." She didn't follow me when I walked out the door. That night, I packed a bag. I didn't know where I was going, only that I couldn't stay. Not another day under the same roof as people who looked at me like I was a burden they couldn't shake. I booked a cheap motel and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the papers over and over again. There had to be something more, something beyond the pain. And then I noticed it. At the bottom of one of the documents, an old photograph, folded so many times it was almost torn. I carefully unfolded it, my hands trembling. It was a picture of a man and a woman, young, smiling, holding a baby. On the back in faded ink were the words, "If you're reading this, we never stopped loving you." My throat closed. Tears blurred the photo. My parents hadn't just lied to me. They had hidden the people who gave me life. And now I had only one thought left in my mind. Who were they? And why did my so-called family never want me to know about them? I stared at the photo for what felt like hours. The ink on the back, "If you're reading this, we never stopped loving you," felt like a ghost reaching out from another life. For the first time, I wasn't angry, I wasn't broken, I was desperate, desperate to know them. The next morning, I went to the county records office. I gave them the names on the adoption papers and waited, my heart pounding as the clerk typed. She looked at me with sad eyes before sliding a thin file across the counter. Inside were newspaper clippings. My biological parents had died in a car accident 27 years ago. A single tear rolled down my cheek as I read the headline. "Young couple killed in tragic crash, leaving behind infant daughter." That infant was me. I had imagined them alive, somewhere out there, maybe searching for me. But they were gone before I ever had a chance to know them. Still, I read every line, clinging to every detail. My mom had been a teacher, my dad a mechanic. They weren't rich, they weren't famous, but they looked happy. Their smiles in that photo weren't forced, weren't cold. They looked like love. But then something caught my eye in the legal papers, something strange. It said, "Custody granted to Richard and Linda Hayes." My heart stopped. Richard and Linda Hayes. My adoptive parents. The same people who spent my entire life reminding me I wasn't enough. They hadn't just been chosen randomly. They had been my parents' best friends, which meant they had a choice. They could have raised me with love. They could have honored their friend's memory. But instead, they treated me like a burden. Why? That question clawed at my chest. I couldn't understand how you could look at a baby, your best friend's baby, and decide she was nothing more than an obligation. That night, back in my motel room, I laid everything out on the bed. The photo, the letters, the adoption decree. I felt like a detective piecing together a puzzle no one wanted me to solve. And the more I stared at it, the angrier I got. They had stolen my chance at knowing who I was. They had buried the truth. They had lied every single day of my life. My hands shook as I whispered to myself, they don't get to control my story anymore. I do. I knew what I had to do. I was going to confront them, not just quietly in the kitchen, not in whispers behind closed doors. I was going to lay out every document, every letter, every truth right in front of them. No more secrets. No more lies. If they thought I was weak, if they thought I would stay silent, they were about to see a very different Sarah. I walked back into that house one last time. The same walls that had watched me grow up. The same kitchen where I had been told I wasn't enough. The same dining table where I had been reduced to nothing more than a duty. But this time, I wasn't coming back as the forgotten daughter. I was coming back with the truth. I asked them to sit down, Mom, Dad, and Emily. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would break my ribs, but my hands didn't shake. Not anymore. I laid the documents on the table. The letter, the adoption papers. The photograph. For a moment no one spoke. Then I began. I know everything. I know about the adoption. I know about my real parents, their accident, who they were. And I know you were their best friends. You were supposed to love me. You were supposed to honor them. My mom's face tightened, but she said nothing. My dad leaned back, exhaling sharply. We gave you a roof, food, clothes. That's more than enough. Enough, my voice cracked, but I didn't falter. You had a choice. You could have raised me with love. Instead, you treated me like a stranger in the house where I should have felt safe. I turned to Emily, who sat pale and quiet. And you knew you could have been my sister, but instead you chose silence. Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't deny it. I pulled out the photo, holding it up for them to see. They loved me. Even if I'll never meet them, I know they did. And you kept that from me. You made me believe I was unworthy when the truth is, I was loved before I ever met you. My dad slammed his fist on the table. You think you're better than us. You're nothing without us. I looked at him, my voice steady. No, I'm finally something without you. For the first time, they were silent. I gathered the papers, folded the photo gently, and stood. You don't get to define me anymore. You don't get to hurt me anymore. I may not have had a real family growing up, but I'll build my own, one that actually loves me. Emily whispered, her voice breaking, Sarah, wait. But I didn't. I walked out the front door, and this time I didn't look back. It's been months since that night. I moved into my own apartment, started therapy, and for the first time I feel like I can breathe. I've learned that family isn't just blood or the people who raise you. Family is love, family is choice. My parents may have failed me, my sister may have betrayed me, but I am no longer their shadow. I am Sarah, I am loved. And I am finally free. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a comment, hit subscribe, follow for more, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss the next one.